Low pay, relentless deadlines, and an industry teetering on the brink of collapse. This is not the vibrant picture most of us conjure when we think about Japanese anime. Yet, in the bustling studios of Tokyo and beyond, passionate creators are stretched to their limits, struggling to deliver the very shows that have captured global imaginations for decades. Why is this flourishing art form facing such harrowing challenges behind the scenes? And how on earth did it get to a point where even the Japanese government is stepping in with a bold plan for salvation? Today, we will unravel all of these questions in a gripping exposé that goes straight to the heart of anime's greatest crisis. You might be wondering, how can an industry that sells out conventions worldwide and fuels endless collaborations with fashion and technology giants be on the verge of an existential meltdown? The reality is far darker than any dystopian anime plot. Contract animators are too often paid a pittance per frame, voice actors endure intense recording schedules for minimal wages, and entire production teams can be required to churn out episodes at lightning speed. Over the years, this high-stakes environment has led to spiraling burnout, unprecedented turnover in animation staff, and a dwindling influx of new talent willing to endure such grueling conditions. In this special deep dive, we will explore exactly how this crisis crept upon one of Japan's most iconic cultural exports. We'll examine why the United Nations has raised alarm bells over the working conditions in anime, how dire the shortage of new animators has become, and what the government's newly proposed changes might mean for the future of your favorite series. If you've ever found yourself impatient for the next installment of a show, or wondered why production delays seem to happen more frequently, fasten your seatbelt. This hidden side of the anime world may shift your entire view of those captivating visuals and epic story arcs. First, let's pull back the curtain and unveil the root of the crisis, the brutally rigid production model that has come to dominate anime. Many studios operate on wafer-thin budgets, while creative talent, particularly animators, often find themselves caught in an endless cycle of freelance gigs. In fact, some animators say their per-frame pay barely covers basic living expenses. Can you imagine putting your heart and soul into drawing thousands of frames for a major series, only to earn less than you might working an entry-level job elsewhere? When corners are continually cut and talented creators feel undervalued, the entire machine starts to sputter. But why haven't studios rebelled against this obviously failing model? Part of the issue lies in the industry's long-established norms. For years, there has been a stubbornly held belief that this punishing schedule is simply how it is. Marketing departments push for new releases each season, anxious to maintain momentum for merchandise, tie-ins, and international sales. Fans devour every new show, placing enormous pressure on studios to supply a continuous flow of fresh content. As a result, production speeds up while budgets remain stagnant or are slashed to preserve profit margins. Over time, that precarious balance has led to what many now call a slow-motion disaster. Furthermore, the anime world's romantic image of passionate artistic sacrifice can mask the very real personal toll. Countless animators and writers are so devoted to their craft that they endure these conditions hoping their dedication will pay off, maybe with greater job security or eventual recognition. Yet, all too often, the payoff never arrives. Instead, they face mounting stress, health problems, and a sense of being disposable. It's a grim cycle that churns through bright-eyed dreamers and leaves them disillusioned, or worse, physically and mentally exhausted. With the global popularity of anime skyrocketing, you might think streaming giants and international partnerships would inject life-saving capital into the industry, but increased demand has, in some cases, exacerbated the crunch. Sure, more shows are being commissioned, but the money doesn't always trickle down to those holding the pens and brushes. Meanwhile, schedules get even more demanding, and studios further outsource key segments of production to smaller teams who may be struggling even more severely. And that is precisely why the Japanese government, via the Ministry of Economy, Trade, and Industry, has stepped in with a bold initiative that some see as the last real hope for reversing the trend. The plan centers on creating a third-party organization designed to stand up for the rights of those who bring anime to life. From pushing for fairer wages and humane scheduling, to establishing clearer guidelines for production timelines, this new body aims to tackle the myriad problems that have simmered for too long. Just imagine an independent entity stepping into the ring, telling studios and production committees that they must provide reasonable working conditions. To some anime veterans, this move seems downright revolutionary, considering how deeply entrenched the old practices have become. Yet the potential benefits are immense: better pay, less burnout, and a sustainable career path for upcoming creators. Ultimately, a healthier environment for animators, voice actors, and other professionals could lead to even richer storytelling and higher quality animation, something every fan can get behind. After all, who doesn't want better, more immersive series, crafted by people who feel inspired rather than exhausted? Before we delve deeper into the specifics of this governmental intervention, let's take a brief moment to remind you: if you appreciate frank discussions that peel back layers of reality in your favorite forms of entertainment, go ahead and like this video. Your quick show of support might seem small, but it's crucial for us to keep investigating the complexities behind these beloved industries. Thank you for being part of this journey. Now, the newly proposed system is not merely about offering moral support. High-ranking officials in Japan have recognized that the country's cultural cachet, especially through anime, manga, and video games, represents a massive economic opportunity. Over the next 5 years, Japan aims to double down on cultural exports, with the lofty goal of raising overseas revenue to 20 trillion yen, equivalent to approximately $138 billion, by the year 2033. Few mediums have as much global resonance as anime, so letting the industry languish under archaic labor conditions could be a colossal missed opportunity. To achieve that ambitious figure, government representatives have outlined what they call a 5-year action plan. In the realm of anime, this plan involves ramping up support, not just for workers' rights, but also for a range of business expansions. Imagine streamlined pathways that help smaller studios find international partners without having to jump through endless bureaucratic hoops. For many mid-level or indie studios that currently struggle for recognition, easier access to global markets could be a game changer, allowing them to secure funding and a reliable pipeline of projects. This approach not only boosts careers, but also enriches the global audience's palette, ushering in fresh styles and narratives that might otherwise never see the light of day. Equally intriguing is the plan to promote anime-themed tourism. If you've ever watched a series and noticed how it spotlights a specific shrine, cityscape, or local restaurant, you've probably felt an urge to visit those settings in person. This is known as pilgrimage tourism, where avid fans flock to real-life locations that inspired or were featured in their favorite shows. The Japanese government aims to nurture that passion by making it even easier for fans to travel to these spots, offering curated travel experiences that seamlessly blend pop culture with local heritage. The thinking here is straightforward. It's not just about bringing in tourist dollars, but also about fostering a deeper appreciation of Japan's regions and cultural history, turning casual viewers into ambassadors of Japanese art and tradition. Stepping back, we see that the entire strategy hinges on one core refuge: the health of the content creators themselves. Yes, the government can set revenue targets and push for brand expansions, but if animators, writers, and other professionals keep burning out, the system collapses under its own weight. The new third-party body is meant to address precisely this. Acting as a mediator and watchdog, it would press for fairer contracts, more realistic deadlines, and structured benefits for workers. It could also introduce training programs, bridging the gap between older industry veterans, many of whom can't keep up the grueling pace, and a younger generation that desperately wants to learn but can't thrive under exploitative conditions. Bear in mind, this is not the first time that calls for reform have surfaced. Independent groups and labor advocates have been raising red flags for years, warning that, eventually, the pipeline of new talent would dry up if working conditions remain subpar. In fact, some aspiring animators have turned to other creative industries or relocated internationally, seeking better pay and more stable work. That loss of talent has directly impacted production schedules. Have you noticed an uptick in delayed anime premieres or entire seasons being pushed back? That's the direct result of studios struggling to staff their projects adequately. But will this new plan really transform the industry top to bottom? Skeptics warn that entrenched hierarchies and profit-first mindsets may resist any real changes. Many big-name studios and production committees have grown accustomed to the status quo, and they might perceive government intervention as meddling in their bottom line. Some cynics argue that real reform would require re-evaluating the entire financing model behind anime, including distribution and licensing deals. If profits continue to funnel disproportionately to executives and merchandising deals, they reason that animators and voice actors might not feel much relief. Nonetheless, supporters of the plan believe that shining a bright light on exploitative practices could be enough to spur meaningful reforms. After all, anime's reputation is built on creativity and artistic excellence, not on corporate exploitation. Even if full transformation isn't immediate, the creation of a recognized third-party body that sets industry standards could lay the foundation for more progressive policies. Over time, the government hopes that such standards will become the new norm, making it a given that high-quality productions come from well-treated, fairly compensated creators. We can't ignore the broader context here. The United Nations has previously called attention to labor issues in the anime and artistic sectors in Japan. International awareness is growing, and so is consumer consciousness about how the media they love is produced. When a global audience starts caring about the conditions under which their favorite pastime is created, that can become a powerful catalyst for corporate responsibility and ethical business practices. Perhaps studios and networks realize that ignoring these calls for reform might eventually harm their brand image, both domestically and abroad. Let's also talk about the potential boomerang effect on the anime we, as fans, consume. In the short run, studios that adopt better working conditions might slow down output to accommodate fair schedules. This could mean fewer shows debuting simultaneously. Those who crave that constant onslaught of new titles might find the decrease frustrating at first. However, in the long run, higher quality releases could become the standard. When creative teams aren't rushing, they can focus on narrative depth, refined animation details, and groundbreaking concepts. This could usher in a new golden era of anime, driven by passion and sustained by a balanced production model. Now, if you're intrigued by these revelations and don't want to miss future explorations into the hidden realities of popular entertainment, feel free to subscribe. You never know what we'll uncover next, and we're committed to shining a light on the stories that rarely get told beyond glossy press releases. Thank you for being part of our community. Looking further down the line, consider the possibility that the Japanese cultural juggernaut might evolve in tandem with shifting audience values. For example, a generation of students now grows up with immediate access to streaming services and behind-the-scenes content, often discovering the grimmer aspects of anime production through online communities. As they become paying customers or even enter the industry themselves, they carry the expectation that fairness and artistry go hand in hand. If new talent can find studios that treat them as partners rather than interchangeable cogs, we could witness a renaissance for Japanese content, as it not only entertains, but also demonstrates an ethical production model. But how soon might we see tangible results? Government-driven reforms can be notoriously slow. The new organization must navigate a complex ecosystem of production committees, broadcasting networks, publishers, and global distributors, each with its own priorities and norms. The track record for implementing large-scale reforms in creative industries is mixed, and critiques of bureaucracy in Japan highlight that well-intentioned measures can become diluted over time. Still, the fact that this initiative is being publicly championed by officials in the Ministry of Economy, Trade, and Industry is significant. They are not merely focusing on labor concerns, but also tying these improvements to the country's economic vision. Japan's leadership understands that anime is more than a local pastime. It's a global force. By harmonizing better labor conditions with strategic economic growth, they aim to strengthen Japan's brand as a cultural powerhouse, in much the same way that French fashion or Korean pop have become global phenomena. Only, the uniqueness of anime extends across demographics. People of all ages around the world are enchanted by its artistry. Capitalizing on that fascination in a sustainable way requires investing in the creative workforce that fuels it. On the practical side, we might see tangible steps such as recommended rates for animators, guidelines for acceptable overtime hours, or even transparent disclosure of production schedules to ensure no single department is crushed by unrealistic expectations. The organization could also draft sample contracts or coordinate standardized training initiatives. By providing a clearer structure for contract negotiations, it could chip away at exploitative practices that have tormented the industry for decades. The real test will come when studios are told to adjust the pace or scope of their output to meet these new standards. Some might adapt quickly, recognizing the benefits of a stable, motivated workforce. Others might resist, clinging to older business models that rely on cheap labor and excessive speed. The industry could face a period of turbulence, with certain projects halting mid-production if disagreements over fair contracts can't be resolved. As a result, fans might witness an unusual flux in the anime release schedule over the next few years. Yet perhaps that is a small price to pay for an outcome in which creators finally receive the dignity and compensation they deserve. Interestingly, this pivot toward valuing creators' well-being may also usher in unexpected dividends for the fans themselves. A healthier industry might resonate more deeply with audiences that are increasingly tuned into how entertainment products are made. For instance, imagine if studios regularly featured behind-the-scenes content or interactive fan events where animators could showcase their work in more relaxed circumstances. Viewers could gain a deeper appreciation for each stroke of the brush, every frame that gets animated, and every storyline meticulously polished. Over time, that stronger bond between fans and creators could feed the cycle of success. More fan support means better profitability, which then circles back into sustaining favorable working conditions. If all the gears align, Japan's vision of doubling cultural export revenue might be not just achievable, but perhaps an underestimate. After all, anime is rarely just a passive pastime for fans. It inspires cosplay gatherings, film festivals, gaming expansions, and entire online communities that trade theories, fan art, and creative tributes. When that level of fandom is merged with conscientious production, the potential is limitless. But let's not sugarcoat it. Major obstacles lie ahead. The industry's global distribution model, which involves multiple layers of licensing and partnership deals, can complicate who actually bears the costs of labor reforms. If major global platforms want exclusive simulcast rights to hot new titles, will they pay enough to ensure production teams can meet higher labor standards? And if anime studios push for better contracts, could some foreign distributors decide the rates are too high and look elsewhere? These are the thorny questions that will inevitably come to the surface. Another concern is the pipeline of new talent. Even if conditions improve, building a robust new generation of animators, writers, and staff might take years. Training programs have to be scaled up, and the once-lost generation of artists who left the scene may need incentives to return. A single third-party oversight committee, no matter how well-intentioned, cannot single-handedly solve education and recruitment issues. Collaboration with schools, universities, and apprenticeship programs might be essential for ensuring the industry doesn't just survive, but thrives. Nonetheless, the fact that the government is finally acknowledging the severity of the problem suggests that the status quo is no longer viable. A time may come when we look back on these reforms as the turning point that saved anime from imploding under its own popularity. At the very least, it's a step not just for the health of the industry, but for the cultural legacy of Japan. Anime is an art form that transcends language barriers, bridging cultures through universal stories of heroism, friendship, struggle, and hope. Protecting its creators ultimately means protecting those timeless narratives from being extinguished by exploitative work conditions. As we inch closer to the conclusion of this in-depth look, let's take a moment to reflect on the human side of the issue. Imagine an aspiring animator just out of art school, brimming with fresh ideas and an unquenchable passion for visual storytelling. Right now, in the traditional system, that person might quickly become disillusioned, working painfully long hours without sufficient recognition or compensation. Under a reformed system, that same individual could instead be nurtured by mentors, have enough rest to maintain creativity, and eventually contribute to the next generation of groundbreaking anime. Which scenario seems more likely to produce the memorable shows that transcend borders and spark new fandoms every year? We've covered a lot of ground, everything from the soul-crushing schedules of anime studios to the ambitious rescue plan designed by the Japanese government. If you found yourself moved or enlightened by these stories, consider giving this video a like. It's one practical way to let others know that these discussions matter, and it empowers us to keep delving into topics that impact both creators and fans across the globe. In closing, whether you are a diehard fan who catalogs every new anime release or a casual viewer just discovering the medium, remember that behind every compelling scene there are real people who deserve fair treatment and a sustainable career. The next few years could reveal whether Japan's bold plan truly becomes the game changer it promises to be, setting an example for entertainment industries everywhere. Will a renaissance of quality over quantity transform anime into something greater than ever before? Or will old systems drag on, strangling innovation until only a shadow of the industry remains? The pieces are on the board, and an entire generation of fans and creators is watching, hoping that the brilliant glow of anime won't be overshadowed by the dark specter of exploitation. In short, the stage is set for a climactic showdown, one that, unlike a scripted storyline, we can help shape with awareness, advocacy, and a commitment to valuing the people behind the art we love.